It all started when my grandpa died in 2004. I remember the funeral and burial so clearly. I always thought that he was going to pop out of his coffin and just walk away, but of course, nothing like that ever happened. I was only 4 at the time, and wasn't old enough to understand that he wasn't coming back. I lived in a big house at the time, and it was easy to get lost. About a month or two after my grandpa's death, I remember getting lost in the long, curvy hallways. I think I was in one of those spare bedrooms when an old man with a top hat came in and told me that he was my grandpa. I didn't really believe in him, so I asked him a really stupid question like, what was my grandpa's favorite color? After staring at me blankly for about 30 seconds, he got furious at me and made a horrible, ugly face. His eyes sunken into his skull until they were just black holes, and his nose grew a few inches and twisted rapidly. I was about to wail and bawl when he noticed me and went back to normal. He told me to follow him to get a very special toy. Being the little kid I was, I followed him until he jumped over the stairs and down 2 stories. I was about to jump too when my mother grabbed me and scolded me. After she was done, I looked down the stairs and the man was nowhere to be seen. And that night, I was getting into the bathtub when suddenly the man reappeared again. He talked and talked to me about himself, but the only thing I can remember him saying was that he always would be watching me in case I did anything wrong. Weeks passed with him visiting me in the bathtub, and he would always try to make me hold my breath underwater. But I remember my parents telling me not to do that, so I told him no. Once I said no, he made that face again, but this time he showed me his teeth. There had been over 100 teeth in his mouth. There was no way I could cry at that face, so I screamed and ran into my mother's room. When she asked me what was wrong, I told her about the old man in the hat that was watching me again. She seemed really unnerved and checked the bathroom, and the man wasn't there. One night, when I was sleeping, the man came in again and brought something with him. I asked him what he brought because I couldn't see what was behind his back because of the dim light. When I asked him, he asked me about what my grandfather's name was. I told him that it was Roman, which is also my name. He said it was his name too. When I asked him about the box again, he finally showed me what was in it. A bottle of Windex. He told me that it was delicious and to take a drink of it. He then took a sip of the bottle himself. When he handed it to me, I said I was too tired and turned around to face the other side of my room. He was there as well. I jumped and ran out of my room before I could even reach the hallway. I bumped into a man, and he was starting to grow taller and taller. I tried to push him away, but right before my hand touched him, he disappeared. I ran all the way to my parents' room and was crying when I jumped into their bed. I couldn't talk until the next morning, and even when I told them that the man was telling me to drink the Windex, they didn't believe me and scolded me about trying to drink the cleaner. Years passed, and I had a brother and my mother was pregnant with my sister. My dad wasn't making a lot of money, so we had to sell our house and move to a smaller house. The night before we moved, I saw the man again. I saw him in a long corridor and waved to him. He didn't wave back, but started to run towards me. I started to run away, but he was faster and caught up to me. He turned me around and said things that I couldn't understand, but I know that he was just probably saying threats about my family and I. When he released me, I ran to my parents' room, and again slept with them for another night. When I was in the car about to leave, the man was in the window. He wasn't looking at me or the car, but was looking at the graveyard behind the car, which I never really visited. Before my family left, I asked my dad, who was a horror fanatic, to see the graveyard. Of course he said yes, and went to the graveyard. I was hoping to see the grave of an old man, but instead there was a family grave that my father pointed out. It was the original owners of the house. He said that the family lived in the house around the late 1800s. He did some research about the family and said that the family were all found dead in their beds while they were sleeping, except for their one son, who was found dead in a potato sack around 1 mile from the house.